Welcome to the Spiritual Awakening Path. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're exploring a powerful topic, spiritual awakening, the secret sign of the chosen ones. If you've ever wondered whether your awakening has a deeper purpose, or why you sometimes feel so different from everyone around you, stay with me, because by the end of this video you'll know the hidden sign that shows you were meant to walk this path. Dear friend, I want you to pause for a moment and really think about this. Have you ever looked at the clock and suddenly realized an entire hour had passed, yet you could have sworn it was only a few minutes? Or the opposite. You sit quietly for just a few minutes, but it feels as if you've drifted into an endless stretch of time, like a whole afternoon went by. If you've ever experienced that, I want you to know, it's not just distraction or forgetfulness. It's actually one of the subtle signs of spiritual awakening. When your awareness begins to stretch beyond the rigid framework of the clock, you're touching a deeper layer of reality, what I like to call the eternal present. I remember one of my clients, a woman in her early 60s. She told me that while gardening, she suddenly looked up and was shocked to see the sun already setting. The entire afternoon had vanished as if it were a single breath. Yet on other days, she would simply sit in her armchair, gazing out the window, and each minute dragged on like an eternity. She asked me, "Am I losing my memory?" I smiled and told her, "No, you're beginning to see the world through the eyes of your soul." You see, for most of our lives, we're trapped inside the structure of clocks, calendars, and to-do lists. We measure everything in minutes, hours, and days. But when your spirit begins to awaken, you step outside of that framework. Time becomes elastic. It stretches and contracts depending on how deeply you're connected with yourself and with life. There are moments when you're in the flow, fully absorbed in your work, in music, or in the present moment. That's when an hour passes in what feels like a blink. And there are moments of silence, when you're simply breathing with awareness, and even a single minute holds the depth of an entire lifetime of reflection. I want you to imagine this. If time were just a canvas, then your consciousness is the artist. You can paint it short or long, fast or slow, depending on how present you are. And when you start noticing these distortions in time, it's a reminder you're no longer bound by the ticking of the clock. You're touching a state of awareness where past, present, and future all blend into one continuous stream. Neuroscience even offers an interesting perspective here. When the brain enters deep focus or meditation, the region that processes time quiets down. As a result, your sense of time changes. This isn't dangerous at all. In fact, it's proof that your nervous system is adapting to open a new way of experiencing reality. So next time you find yourself losing hours in a single moment or living a lifetime in just a few minutes, pause and smile. Don't be alarmed. See it as a gift, a gentle reminder that you are stepping closer to the doorway of awakening. Have you ever felt that flow yourself? If you have, I'd love to hear your story, because I believe it's not just your journey alone. It's part of the path your soul has chosen to walk through. You know, there comes a stage in the awakening journey when you suddenly realize you just can't pretend anymore. The forced smiles, the "I'm fine" when inside you're in turmoil, the small talk about weather, prices, or news, they all start to feel unbearably heavy, almost impossible to carry on with. I've met so many people, especially in midlife and later years, who tell me, "I feel like I don't have the energy to play a role anymore. I don't want to keep pleasing people just to keep the peace. I just want to be myself." If you've ever felt that way, please know, you're not alone. This isn't stubbornness. It isn't selfishness. It's your soul calling you back to authenticity. Let me share a story with you. There was a man in his 50s I once worked with. For decades he had been the good guy, always agreeable, always smiling, always enduring. But one day he sat across from me, sighed deeply, and said, "Doctor, I can't do this anymore. I'm exhausted from living as everyone else expects. I don't even recognize myself." That moment was the beginning of his authenticity. And though it was hard, he told me it was the first time in his life he ever felt truly free. You see, when you reach this stage, you simply can't force yourself into meaningless conversations or fake a cheerful face when your heart is weary. You can't keep wearing the coat society handed you, the coat of obedience, of politeness, of shrinking yourself just to fit in. What's fascinating is that psychology confirms this too. When people live authentically, their stress levels drop significantly. Cortisol, the stress hormone, goes down. Meanwhile, feelings of connection and happiness rise. In other words, living true to yourself isn't just good for your soul, it's medicine for your body. Now imagine this. You're at a crowded party. You smile, make small talk, but deep inside, you know you don't really want to be there. The moment you're honest with yourself, that you need your own space, that you'd rather go home, or that you long for a deeper conversation, your body relaxes. You feel a wave of new energy flowing through you. Authenticity doesn't mean becoming harsh or rude. It simply means daring to live in alignment with your feelings and values. It means no longer shrinking yourself just to be accepted. And here's the miracle. When you live authentically, you naturally attract people and experiences that resonate with who you truly are. The heavy, forced relationships start to fade and genuine connections begin to appear. So if you find yourself unable to pretend anymore, smile. This is not a crisis. This is freedom. This is the first step back to being your true self, whole, clear, and alive. Have you ever felt this? You're in the middle of a crowd, voices and laughter all around you, and suddenly your heart whispers a deep longing. I just want to be alone, in silence. Not because you're sad, not because you dislike people, but because your soul is calling you back to that quiet, sacred space within where peace and truth live. On the path of awakening, this craving for silence isn't a sign of loneliness. It's a sacred invitation. I call it holy solitude. It's the time when you turn inward, listening to the wisdom that has always been there, hidden beneath the noise of everyday life. I once worked with a woman in her 60s who had gone through a major family crisis. She told me that afterwards, she no longer wanted to go to the temple, attend groups, or join social gatherings. Instead, she spent hours each morning in her garden, watching sunlight filter through the leaves and listening to the birds. And she said to me, "Out there I feel closer to God than in any church." Have you ever felt that? That sometimes silence, not sermons, not rituals, is where the deepest truth reveals itself? Science even backs this up. When we enter stillness, our brainwaves shift from the stressed-out beta state into alpha and theta, the states of creativity, healing, and spiritual connection. That's why after sitting quietly in nature, or after a meditation, you can feel completely renewed, even though you did nothing. So let me paint you a picture. Imagine sitting alone in a quiet room. Soft light spills through the window, no phone, no TV, just the sound of your own breathing. And in that peace, you begin to hear your own soul, the things you truly desire, the wounds that are ready to be healed, and the creative ideas waiting to be born. That is the gift of holy solitude. And here's the beautiful part. When you step back out into the world after that sacred space, you notice you've changed. You no longer crave constant approval from others. You feel stronger when saying no to what no longer serves you. You begin to see clearly which relationships bring light into your life and which ones only drain your energy. So if you find yourself longing for silence these days, don't be afraid. Embrace it. Welcome it as a sacred season of the soul. Because in those moments of solitude, you're not separate from the world. In fact, you are more deeply connected to yourself, to life, and to the entire universe than ever before. There's a moment on the spiritual awakening journey that almost everyone faces. The people who once felt so close to you, the ones who shared your laughter, your struggles, your everyday life, suddenly feel distant. Not because of a fight, not because anyone did something wrong, but simply because you and they are no longer moving to the same rhythm, no longer tuned to the same frequency. I often compare it to music. When you change, the song of your soul changes too. And naturally, those who are still playing the old melody can no longer harmonize with you. They may still love you, but the conversations feel awkward. The things that once made you laugh now feel shallow. Have you ever sat among your old friends, listening to the chatter, and felt like a stranger in the room? That's a clear sign that an energetic shift is happening within you. I remember a woman, 55 years old, who once shared her story with me. After she began her meditation practice and stepped deeper into spirituality, coffee dates with her old friends no longer brought her joy. They still talked about neighbors, kids, politics, but she longed for conversations about compassion, the meaning of life, and the depth of the soul. She told me with a sigh, "I feel like I'm living in a different world now." But here's the truth. This isn't a loss. It's a natural realignment of life. As you raise your consciousness, the universe begins guiding you toward people who are tuned to the same frequency, souls who can see and embrace the real you. Yes, some old bonds may fade, but at the same time, new doors will open. Think of it like tuning a radio. If you stay on the old station, all you hear is static. But when you turn the dial, slowly a new crystal-clear melody comes through. That's what new relationships will feel like. The kind where you don't have to pretend, you don't have to shrink yourself, but instead, you can show up fully and authentically as you are. Even psychology has studied this. When your nervous system changes, through meditation, healing, or reducing stress, you become more sensitive to the emotional energy around you. Relationships built only on habit or obligation become harder to maintain because your body and soul now crave honesty, resonance, and depth. So if you find yourself drifting apart from people who once felt so close, allow it to happen without blame. This distance isn't an ending, it's a bridge carrying you from the old, which no longer fits, toward a new chapter where deeper, more nourishing connections are waiting for you. One of the clearest signs that you're moving deeper into spiritual awakening is this. The urge to compete begins to fade away. In the past, maybe you felt you had to prove yourself, be smarter, richer, more successful. You ran in society's endless race for recognition. But one day you wake up and realize that race no longer excites you. I once spoke with a man in his early 60s, a highly successful businessman. For decades he worked tirelessly, building his wealth, his reputation, his status. But after a major family crisis, he found himself asking, "What am I really living for? What's the point of chasing success if, in the end, my soul feels empty?" That question became the doorway to his spiritual journey. And from then on, instead of chasing profit alone, he found joy in mentoring younger entrepreneurs, helping them build companies that were ethical, sustainable, and kind. When you awaken, the fire of competition slowly dissolves. It's not that you lose ambition, it's that your definition of success changes. You start to care more about meaning, contribution, touching people's hearts. Praise, titles, comparisons, they lose their grip on you. Joy now comes from creating, from being authentic, from leaving something of true value behind. Imagine it this way. Before, you were running on a crowded racetrack. Everyone was pushing, shoving, trying to get ahead. But now you've stepped off that track. You've found your own quiet path, where you can walk at your own pace, take in the beauty around you, and smile, because you no longer feel the pressure to outrun anyone else. Even positive psychology research supports this. Studies show that people who live with a sense of meaning experience greater fulfillment and happiness than those who only chase material success. When your spirit awakens, you begin to taste a deeper kind of peace, an inner contentment that doesn't depend on having more than others, but on being profoundly connected to yourself and the world. So if you notice that you're losing interest in the race for status, welcome it as a gift. It means you're getting closer to your true self, a self no longer dragged by society's demands, but guided by creativity, compassion, and the longing to live with purpose. And that peace you discover, that freedom from competition, may just be the greatest success of all. There's a fascinating turning point on the path of awakening. Your intuition slowly becomes the compass for your life. In the past, most of your decisions may have been driven by logic, spreadsheets, data, advice from others. But then you begin to notice a quiet inner voice, soft yet unmistakably clear, whispering to you which direction feels right. And the strange thing is, when you dare to follow that voice, life often flows smoothly, as if the universe itself is secretly rearranging things to support you. I remember working with a woman in her 50s. She told me about a big investment opportunity that looked flawless on paper. Yet deep inside, she felt this persistent unease she couldn't explain. Finally, she decided to walk away, even though others thought she was being foolish. A few months later, that project collapsed. She had protected both her peace and her finances. Looking back, she simply smiled and said, "I had no evidence, only intuition." When intuition becomes your guide, you start to trust the rhythm of life. You stop trying to control every little detail, Stop exhausting yourself by planning for every possible outcome. Instead, you learn to listen to subtle signals, how your body feels, the resonance in your heart, or simply that gut sense of this feels right or this doesn't. Think of it this way. If life is a river, logic is the map, while intuition is the current beneath you. A map can be useful, but rivers change course. When they do, only by feeling the flow can you stay on track. Once you learn to trust intuition, you begin to swim with life instead of constantly fighting against it. And science is beginning to back this up. Neuroscience shows that intuition isn't some vague magic. It's the wisdom of your subconscious, the integration of memory, experience, and fast processing that operates beneath awareness. In other words, intuition is your deeper intelligence, the part of you that already knows what aligns with your soul. So if you find yourself leaning more on intuition, embrace it as a blessing. It means you're moving in harmony with yourself and with the flow of the universe. And sometimes just daring to follow that gentle whisper is enough to open a whole new path, lighter, freer, and profoundly more meaningful. There's a stage in the awakening journey that I've seen so many people go through. It's when a mysterious calling begins to rise inside you. It's not about climbing higher on the career ladder, or chasing recognition, or proving yourself to the world. It feels different. It's a quiet whisper from deep within. I came here to do something more meaningful than this. I once worked with a retired teacher, around 65 years old. She told me that after leaving the classroom, she felt empty. But then, through dreams and moments of silence, she began to sense a calling, to write a book. Not to become famous, but to pass on her lifetime of lessons and stories to younger generations. And when she finally started writing, she said she had never felt such a powerful flow of creativity. That's the energy of purpose. It unlocks a strength inside you that you never knew you had. When you discover your purpose, the things that once seemed important suddenly shrink in size. Status, recognition, money, they all become tools, not the goal itself. The true goal is contribution. And the strange beauty of it all is this. When you live with purpose, the rest, money, opportunities, connections, often flows to you naturally, as if the universe is aligning to support your mission. Think about your own life for a moment. Have you ever felt a subtle calling tugging at your heart? Maybe it shows up as a simple love, caring for plants, healing others, writing, teaching, or simply listening and holding space for someone in pain. It doesn't always come fully formed, but if you pay attention, that voice grows stronger over time. In psychology, the Japanese call this ikigai, your reason for waking up in the morning. In spirituality, we know it as the soul's reminder of why you came here. Because let's be honest, you weren't born just to pay bills and disappear. You came to learn, to love, and to leave a mark, no matter how small, on the human story. So if you're feeling that inner pull, don't ignore it. Sit down. Write out what your heart keeps whispering to you. Ask yourself, if I wasn't afraid of failing, if age or circumstances weren't holding me back, what would I truly want to do? That answer might lead you straight to your purpose. And once you begin living it, every single day transforms into a journey filled with meaning. There comes a stage in the awakening journey when your body and soul begin to feel deeply sensitive to the energy around you. If in the past you could sit in a noisy room, engage in small talk, or work in a high-pressure environment without really noticing much, now, even the smallest details can hit you in powerful ways. You walk into a room and within seconds, you can sense whether the atmosphere is heavy or light. You hear someone's voice, and instantly your soul reads the emotion behind their words. Sometimes, even a short text message can feel either comforting or suffocating. I once met a woman in her early 40s who shared this exact experience. She told me that after she began meditating, she could no longer handle violent movies or heated TV debates. Just a few minutes, and my chest feels tight, my breathing gets heavy, as if my body is reacting before my mind even understands what's happening, she explained. Before, she could watch action movies for hours. But now, her body had become like a finely tuned antenna, picking up and responding to even the subtlest vibrations. Here's the truth. This sensitivity is not weakness. It's the natural result of your consciousness becoming clearer, more refined, and more connected to the energy field around you. It's like cleaning a window. When the glass is clear, light shines through more vividly. In the past, our awareness was clouded by layers of stress, distraction, and unconscious patterns. But as you awaken, those layers get wiped away and suddenly you begin to see and feel life with greater clarity. Even neuroscience and psychology back this up. When you regularly practice mindfulness or meditation, your parasympathetic nervous system, the part that promotes rest and restoration, becomes more active. This makes you more attuned to nonverbal signals, tone of voice, eye contact, the energy of a room. In other words, you're no longer just hearing with your ears or seeing with your eyes. Your entire body becomes a living sense organ. That's why you can instantly pick up on tension, dishonesty, or on the flip side, authenticity, peace, and love. Think of it like this. You're an instrument that's been finely tuned. When a note is out of harmony, you feel it immediately. And when a melody is pure and beautiful, your whole being vibrates in resonance with it. That's the gift of energetic sensitivity. It helps you recognize the places, the people, and the experiences that truly nourish your soul, and those that quietly drain you. The point here isn't to become fearful or avoidant of the world, but to grow wise in your choices. You start to seek environments that feel clean and uplifting, conversations that are genuine, relationships that nurture you, instead of constantly exposing yourself to toxic energy. And the moment you choose this, you'll notice your energy is preserved, even elevated, like never before. So if you find yourself becoming more sensitive to the atmosphere around you, smile. It's not a burden, it's a blessing. It's proof that your soul is spreading its wings, learning to live in truth and in light. And from this sensitivity, you'll be guided toward the people, the environments, and the experiences that harmonize with the unique song your soul came here to play. There's a very unique moment on the journey of awakening when you suddenly look around at your familiar life and realize, why am I still here? This isn't me anymore. The things that once felt normal, your job, routines, friendships, even the house you live in, suddenly feel foreign, like you're standing inside a painting that no longer belongs to you. That's the soul nudging you to step out of your comfort zone and walk toward a brand new horizon. I once worked with a man in his 40s who told me about an experience like this. One morning, on his way to the same office he had worked at for 20 years, he suddenly felt like a complete stranger in that environment. The meetings, the emails, the daily grind, none of it made sense anymore. He told me, I watched everyone laughing and chatting, but inside I just felt empty. I kept asking myself, why am I still doing all of this? That wasn't just burnout. It was awakening, the moment his true self was ready to move into a new chapter of life. Maybe you felt something similar. You look at the career you once felt proud of, but now it only feels exhausting. Or you're sitting in the middle of a crowded party that used to excite you, and suddenly you feel out of place. These moments are signs that you've outgrown your old version of yourself. Like a shirt that once fit but now feels tight and suffocating, life pushes you to take it off so you can step into something new, something that actually feels right. Psychologists often describe this as an identity transition. When your inner values and awareness shift, you naturally begin to feel disconnected from what once felt comfortable. That sense of disconnection isn't a crisis. It's your brain and soul guiding you to seek environments that align with who you're becoming. It's not falling apart. It's restructuring. Think of it like traveling to another country for a long time. When you finally come back home, your room, your street, even the taste of your favorite food feels strangely unfamiliar. It's not because those things changed. It's because you did. Your soul has journeyed forward, and now it craves a new space to keep growing. Of course, this stage isn't easy. It can bring confusion, fear, and even resistance from people around you. But remember, feeling out of place in your old life is not a sign that you're lost. It's the map that shows you where to go next. It's proof that you're ready to step out of the old comfort zone, let go of what no longer fits, and step into a new life that reflects your true soul. So if one day you look around and no longer recognize the life you're living, don't panic. Welcome that feeling. It's not the end. It's an invitation. It's the universe whispering, it's time for a new chapter, a chapter where you'll discover deeper freedom, creativity, and peace than you've ever known before. Awakening the compassionate heart. Among all the signs of spiritual awakening, perhaps the most sacred and life-changing one is when your heart begins to open, when you suddenly feel deeply attuned to both the suffering and the joy of the world. This isn't just a passing emotion, it's a profound shift in how you see yourself, humanity, and the entire universe. You start to realize you are not separate at all, that every breath you take is intertwined with the breath of all living beings. I remember speaking with a woman in her 50s who had just gone through a difficult family event. She told me she could no longer stay unmoved like she once did. When she heard that a neighbor had lost his job, she cried. When she saw the innocent smile of a child on the street, her heart lit up. She told me, "I don't know why, but it feels like my heartbeat is in rhythm with the whole world." That is the essence of a compassionate awakening, a love that stretches far beyond family or friends and embraces all of humanity. What's remarkable is that once your heart awakens, you don't just feel compassion, you are naturally moved to act. You want to comfort, to help, to simply be present so others feel less alone in their pain. Sometimes it's as simple as listening to a friend in need, smiling at a stranger, or sending a silent prayer for those who are suffering. These gestures no longer come from duty. They flow effortlessly, as if love has become the only language your soul knows how to speak. Science, too, has a perspective on this. Neuroscience studies show that when we cultivate compassion, the regions of the brain linked to joy and social connection light up. The hormone oxytocin, often called the love hormone, is released, creating feelings of warmth, safety, and peace. In other words, when you give love and compassion, you're not only healing the world, you're also healing yourself. Think of your heart as a candle. Once it's lit, it doesn't just shine for you. It illuminates everyone nearby. And the magic is, the flame doesn't diminish when shared. On the contrary, it grows brighter. Love and compassion work the same way. The more you give, the more abundant they become. As your heart opens, you may also feel a deeper connection with nature. The sky, the wind, the songs of the birds, everything begins to feel like part of you. Trees and animals no longer appear as something out there, but as brothers and sisters in one great family. From that place, you naturally begin to live more harmoniously, more reverently, protecting the earth as if it were your very own heart. Of course, with this sensitivity comes a challenge. The world's pain can sometimes feel overwhelming. The news, the wars, the injustices. It can bring tears to your eyes. But remember, awakening to compassion doesn't mean you're responsible for carrying the entire weight of the world. It means living in love, doing what you can, within your capacity. Even the smallest act of kindness can create ripples that spread far and wide. And maybe the greatest gift of this awakening is that you begin to live guided by love, not just by logic. Your decisions come from kindness and empathy rather than cold calculation. You find joy not only in receiving, but in giving. Life becomes richer than ever before, not because of material wealth, but because of the deep abundance of your soul. My friend, if your heart is stirring, if you are beginning to feel this profound connection, honor it, nurture it. Let its light shine through your words, your actions, and your presence. And if this message resonates with you, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments, tell your story, and subscribe to the Spiritual Awakening Path. Together, we can spread compassion and light. Because this journey becomes even more beautiful and complete when we don't walk it alone, but side by side, helping to awaken the heart of humanity.